There's going to be times where you're just like, I can't do this anymore. If your love is strong enough, you'll fight on.
Mm-hmm.
But if that burning desire isn't in you, you know, when you got to be up at 5:30 in the morning, when you got to go to workouts, class, film, practice, if you don't think that love is there, then you should probably look at other places where maybe that your skills would be better suited for. Because I know the most talented people who were not all in. And again, is that rare person that's so talented they can do what they want?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but that's very rare. That's the minority. That's the top 1%. But for everyone else that, you know, you got to have a commitment level of 100. If that's not there, then D1's not for you. I would say D2 or D3 is not for you either. Like, figure out what you want to do. Because I think there's great athletes and great players at every level. I don't care what level you play at. To go play at college is an honor and a privilege. And I think that's something as a misconception, like, oh, I got to go D1. And my wife's a volleyball coach too. And she's a volleyball coach at Adelphi, actually. But we talk about this all the time, where she'll recruit girls and they want to go D1. Why do they want to go D1? To say they went D1. But wouldn't you rather go somewhere where you're wanted, where that you're going to play and compete for a championship? I think that can't go understated enough. Go where you're going to play. This would be my message to everyone. Get recruited if you're a high school kid. Go where they want you, number one. And go where you're going to play and compete for a championship. Because I don't know your experience of your years, you know, playing, but when you're on a team, I don't care if you're at the biggest school ever. If you guys aren't winning, it ain't fun. It is not fun.
Welcome to Q's Health and Wellness Podcast, your source for living a healthier lifestyle and developing a better mind, body, and soul. Through guidance, tips, and stories of highly successful fitness gurus, athletes, and individuals who are passionate about enhancing all aspects of life, we provide you with the tools to help you take your lifestyle to another level. And now your host, Quinn Mitchell.
Welcome to Q's Health and Wellness Podcast. This is your host, Quinn Mitchell. Today I have a very special guest. Keith Ferrara is a former Division I football player and is currently the head strength and conditioning coach at Adelphi University, and also has his own company called Ferrara Fitness LLC. How you doing today, my friend?
Good, awesome. Thanks for having me on. This is a great honor, and I always appreciate when people reach out to get me on their platform. I really appreciate it.
No problem. So for people that's not familiar with you, would you mind giving a brief introduction about yourself?
Yeah. So I played sports my whole life. When I was, I never played football ever, but when I got to high school, that's, where my first love for football really started. Played all 4 years. I had a couple scholarship offers coming out of high school. I decided to go to Hofstra University. I played there for 3 years. My third year, they wound up shutting the program down, which was pretty much a shock for everyone. Hofstra's been in existence for a long time with their football program, with some great players that have played years in the NFL, won Super Bowls, et cetera. So in 2009, when they cut it, I was getting ready to transfer. And then I suffered, what is called acute compartment syndrome, which left untreated is life or death. So, it went untreated for me. I went to a couple doctors. They kind of, I don't want to say blew me off, but they really didn't know what was wrong with me. Days later, I finally got to a hospital that did. And at that point, they weren't sure if they were going to have to amputate my leg or not. So after that, I spent 17 days in the hospital. I had 3 major surgeries. I lost like 40 pounds. And they told me I was never going to walk again. I learned now. My parents kind of hid that from me at the time. I was 19, 20 years old. So that was pretty shocking, for a 20-year-old. But, my love for sports performance and training individuals started to get elevated once I was going through this. And it became more than just a job for me, because it was really my lifestyle that was at risk if I wasn't able to get back to my previous shape. We're talking about walking. I played sports my whole life. Not be able to walk was devastating. But I always look at it this way: life is 10% what happens to you, 90% what you make of it. That was a sign I saw in the doctor's office when I got some bad news about my leg. And I've had that approach ever since. But ever since that point, I was just dedicated. I was like, let me help others accomplish the goals, they want in their lives. So, after I graduated Hofstra, I got my bachelor's and master's from there. I spent a little over 3 years at the United States Tennis Association working with the top American tennis players, juniors and professionals.
Wow.
And then I was lucky enough in 2014 to be hired as the first ever strength and conditioning coach in Adelphi history. And I've been there ever since.
Wow, that's awesome, man. That's an incredible story. And one question I have for you is just when you're going through that process, I know it could have been a struggle for you mentally while you were going through it. How did you really get the courage to bounce back from that? Because I know if it was me and myself, if I was in that situation, I probably would have even wanted to be a fitness coach at that point after going through everything you're going through.
Yeah, it was such a big part of my life before it happened. I loved working out. I loved the weight room. I loved sprinting because I felt like that was something you can control every single day. And I saw how much it changed my playing career and my skills, and I saw my teammates prosper so much. So when that happened to me, it wasn't really like I felt like I had a choice. I always look at it this way. I think there's someone out there that always has it worse than what I do. And so I try not to focus too much on what was wrong and really try to focus on how can I get back? And to me, I was unsure, right? Like I didn't get movement back in my foot. My foot was hanging. I could not move my foot. I had 2 severed nerves. So I just kept thinking every day, and I was like, just give 100% of what you got today. That's it. Every day, just give 100%. Honestly, a lot of faith in God as well, because to me, I didn't have the power to do it by myself, right? I leaned on my faith. I leaned on the people around me, and I just leaned on the fact that I was going to give everything I had every single day, and I wasn't going to be that person that just felt sorry for themselves, because there's so many bad things out there in this world, people who suffer so much worse than what I did. And maybe people look at what I had, right, and they think it was really bad, and I could have died. And I know people that have had compartment syndrome and died. And I really think, it was a blessing from God. There was angels looking over me, because that's what got me through this whole process. And I just kept my head down, and I did everything I needed to every single day to get back to the position I'm in currently.
No, definitely, man. And like, even to share a story, I mean, you might not know this about me. I was in a car accident, I want to say about a year ago. And I was on a highway, and somebody hit me from behind. I was crashing to the cement barrier, and I was probably I was already on the highway, like going like 65 miles an hour. So when they hit me, I was probably going into the cement barrier, probably 90 or close to 100 miles an hour. Where I walked out of that without a scratch. And it's like when you have those near life death experiences, you really have a different appreciation towards life, and you really wake up every day, and it's like you don't take it for granted anymore.
You're just so thankful when stuff like that happens, because I really feel like it's not your time, right? Because easily that your car could have flipped and something devastating could have happened. I could have been in the hospital, and maybe something could have happened on the operating table. But I feel like we're given a purpose in life. And I think our goal is to maximize our purpose and the talents that we're given, no matter what they are. Maybe you're an artist, or you're a coach, or you're a player. And I think, we all have that ability to maximize what we have. And I really think in order to show appreciation for what we do have, it's our responsibility to give 100% every day.
No, definitely, man. And like I said, I appreciate you even sharing that story with the listeners.
Absolutely.
And just transitioning, I know you played D1 football. So were there any challenges, or like just trying to just go to class, or just trying to get the right time? Because I know for me, when I played basketball, I really had to make some sacrifices, whether it was friend groups or just even the people that I was hanging out with, just to focus on my craft. So what was it really for you?
Yeah, it was 7 days a week, 24 hours a day commitment, from on the field to the weight room to, in the classroom, to traveling to, like you said, leaving kind of a social aspect behind to, pursue a common goal with a lot of individuals, and we had a big team, I don't know, 80 plus individuals. It teaches you a lot about time management. I think that's the biggest thing that people struggle with. And it teaches you a lot about discipline, right? Like, you can't just do whatever you want. You're on a schedule, a set schedule every day that you got to abide to, because you got to realize, and I know this, but it's not just about you. All right. And now you're part of a team, you're part of a family. And I think what's taught by those challenges really leads athletes at such a bigger advantage when they leave, because these are skills that I feel like a lot of people don't learn, that when you are an athlete, they just become ingrained with you, right? Like waking up early, being on time, doing what you have to, because once again, it's not just about you. I've always seen those challenges as a blessing. And, me and two of my former teammates, and that was another thing. It might've been a challenge, but the brotherhood that you bond with the guys around you is incredible. Like, You know, me and my 2 other buddies, we actually started a group. It's called the Fifth Quarter Coalition, just talking about, you know, how can athletes get ahead while they're in college, right? And then what can they do after college? Like, it doesn't have to be you're done playing sports and then your life's over, right? I think that's a common message, and maybe you can attest to that. But like, people get into the job force and they're like, now I got to work, like no more sport. It doesn't have to be like that, right? That's an exciting time in your life. You have such an advantage of all the skills you learn being an athlete. That's going to propel you so much further in life than someone that, you know, maybe they just messed around in college. They enjoyed the 4 years, but they haven't been preparing. So that's why, even though it's a challenge, to me, it just takes you to another level compared to just, you know, maybe someone who didn't have the same experience.
And it's crazy that you said it, because I see it every day with myself. Like, I wake up at 3 a.m., write in my journal, practice gratitude, and then like it's literally like I'm back in college, but I'm doing it in a different phase now. Like, I have literally a structure of a daily planner that I go through. And I have to do all these tasks throughout the day. And then literally I take it for when I was in college. I literally used to wake up, go to the gym at 5 a.m., 5 to 7, and go eat, then go back to the gym and shoot. So it was like those little things, I feel like, and I see it in the workplace every day. Like, for people that never played a sport before, it's a different mindset. And it's like, I'm always hungry, and I want something more than just what I have right now. And the people that I see in the workforce they're just settled for working a 9 to 5. Like, they're okay with that. Like, I have to get more.
And we always say, and we always talk about, you know, when we get together once a week, and their names are Luke Bonus and Saeed Gaeta. And I had to mention them because they're such an inspiration for me on a day-to-day basis, you know. But, you know, this is we played football back in 2009. You know, look how long we formed these bonds. We talk about every day how we can pick out of the room who was an athlete and who wasn't, based on their demeanor, based on how they go about their work, based on how they talk to people. You know, so it's so routine for us. And I feel like when you take it to the workplace, or when you take it to being an entrepreneur, it's just like second nature. You know, you're going to maximize everything you had, because that's what you did when you were an athlete. So even though there are a lot of challenges, to me, they're just setting you up for such a huge advantage over everyone else when you do get into, you know, that quote unquote real life.
No, definitely. And another question I want to ask you just about that overall football experience, because when you were a D1 athlete, I know, Keith, like, I played D3 and D2, so I know there's a different level of discipline, there's a different level of sacrifice that y'all have to make. But for people that's listening, even for kids that even want to go D1 one day, is it just me, or do y'all really have to go all in? Like, there's no 80% that y'all can give 50 or 70%. Like, y'all have to give all in. Like, that's your life. Because for me, when I was playing basketball, it was my life. There was no, like, don't get me wrong, I had my fun here and there, but when it came down to it, I was not partying every day. I wasn't going out talking to people every day. Like, the gym was my life. But how was it for you?
Yeah, so it becomes your life. Yeah, you said it 100% correct. Now, I always think, like, if you're not going to commit to something, you shouldn't go play at any level. You know, and I work at a Division II school now, and our athletes are super dedicated as well. So I've experienced it for a long time. Like, you get the same level of commitment at D2 as you do get at D1. But if you don't feel that level of commitment, if there's not a love for the game there, D1 will not be for you, because it's another level. Like, I know when we were in season, like, it was legit 7 days a week. We were at the building, right? Like, we had games on Saturday, we had workouts on Sunday, we had film on Monday, you know, so it was a constant, and you eat, you breathe, you bleed football, you know? So to me, find out in high school, is this something you love? Because you're gonna go through some adversity. It's part of life, right? There's going to be times where you're just like, I can't do this anymore. If your love is strong enough, you'll fight on. But if that burning desire isn't in you, you know, when you got to be up at 5:30 in the morning, when you got to go to workouts, class, film, practice, if you don't think that love is there, then you should probably look at other places where maybe that your skills would be better suited for. Because I know the most talented people who were not all in. And again, is that rare person that's so talented they can do what they want? Yes, but that's very rare. That's the minority. That's the top 1%. But for everyone else that, you know, you got to have a commitment level of 100. If that's not there, then D1's not for you. I would say D2 or D3 is not for you either. Like, figure out what you want to do. Because I I think there's great athletes and great players at every level. I don't care what level you play at. To go play at college is an honor and a privilege. And I think that's something as a misconception, like, oh, I got to go D1. And my wife's a volleyball coach too. And she's a volleyball coach at Adelphi, actually. But we talk about this all the time, where she'll recruit girls and they want to go D1. Why do they want to go D1? To say they went D1. But wouldn't you rather go somewhere where you're wanted, where that you're going to play and compete for a championship? I think that can't go understated enough. Go where you're going to play. This would be my message to everyone. Get recruited if you're a high school kid. Go where they want you, number one. And go where you're going to play and compete for a championship. Because I don't know your experience of your years, playing, but when you're on a team, I don't care if you're at the biggest school ever. If you guys aren't winning, it ain't fun. It is not fun.
I'm glad you brought that up, because for me, like I said, I bounced around from a couple of schools because I was in junior college, and I've been on like the top junior college in the nation. Versus I went to a school where they only won 2 games the previous year, and just that level of competitiveness is like, I'm bringing it every day, and you got dudes over here that don't care, or they're not taking it as serious. Like, as an athlete, and especially someone who wants to get better and wants their team to get better, that eats you alive. And sometimes if you're not in that right predicament, I feel like you look bad upon, because you're looking at you going too hard, or you have too much expectations to a point where this is embedded in you. So when basketball was my life, it's like, that's what I did. But for somebody that doesn't take it serious, they won't understand it the same.
And you're going to be and I'm sure you can say this as well, but like, those are bad teammates to be around. Like, you don't want to be around people that aren't giving their all every day, or, that don't love the game. Like, those are cultures that don't win. They will not be successful. So I kind of think it's important to get a feel for the coach as well when you're on this recruiting process, and get a feel for the players on the team. Like, where are they at? Will they do anything to win? Will they go all in? Will they, and not only, playing the sport, are they going to eat the right way? Are they going to sleep? Are they going to hydrate? Are they going to do everything outside of that? And if that commitment level is not there off the field or off the court or off the ice as well, you're going to limit your potential.
Nah, and I definitely agree with that. Now, I just want to transition into your fitness company, and I know that, how long have you had it for?
So I've been training people since probably 2012.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I've been training people. This was on the side, not, as a sports performance coach. And then, I made it official in 2019. I think a lot of people, and I registered it through the state and stuff like that. I made it an LLC. I think what a lot of people miss out, there's a lot of benefits of owning a business, and, in terms of expenses and liabilities and stuff like that. And that was the biggest thing that I transitioned to my business, was because the liability, like, God forbid something ever happened, they can come at me personally. So if it's under my LLC, I'm kind of protected there. So, I started my company in 2019 officially. So that's when I started to really tailor more to the athlete specific client. But I train people that are just, general health. I will never turn down a client. Like, if you're all in, I want you. I don't care what your goal is. And, so I've been doing that for, since then. But, I train, I did online training for my clients overseas, who play professional basketball. I do in-person training, I do group sessions, stuff like that. So, just always trying to grow and expand the business to affect as many lives as possible.
No, and that's awesome. And the question I want to ask you is, have you seen any like common obstacles when you first get a client on board? Like, is it something that they can't do as something like time management, or the lack of motivation? Like, what is it that you see?
Dedication. Dedication every time. Just because what I try to do is, hey, when we start the month off, let's just book out when we're going to train, right? Like, let's plan. Because to me, when you don't plan something out, you're just asking to fail. What's that saying? A failure to plan is a plan to fail, right? Let's map everything out. Because to me, consistency is the biggest problem. And I have clients, they'll come 3 days, 1 week, and then something comes up the next week. You're never going to get any goals like that. So to me, it's important to map out a plan. And what's even bigger than that, for the client to have success, what is your goal? Right? Like, if you don't constantly think about, and I tell my client, write down your goal. What do you want to accomplish? When you write it down, it becomes real. But when they don't have that specific goal in mind and they're just here to train, there's no meaning behind it, right? Like everything we do has to have a purpose, whatever the case may be. It's to look good, it's to prepare for the sport, whatever it is. But if you're not constantly reminded of what that goal is and what your greater plan is, you're going to kind of slack off in the consistency of the dedication. So that's what I see, a lack of consistency. But I think it's easily accomplished by just taking the time before you start training. Hey, this is my plan. This is what I'm going to do every day to accomplish that. And, I'm going to be with my trainer X amount of times. And on top of that, I'm going to do this to make sure I'm trending in the right direction.
Got you. And I want to get your opinion because I see that you're very intelligent and really knowledgeable in the fitness industry. Now, when it comes to women specifically, I know there's a lot of junk out there that people that, especially women that want to lose weight. So you got these fitness trainers, these pills, whatnot. So, man, and I know even with some of the clients that I used to train, they used to tell me when I first tell them, like, tell me your experience, like, with training. They used to be like, I used to go on the treadmill for hours just trying to lose weight. And literally that would kill their dedication to going to the gym. So what would you say is like if you could give one secret for a woman that's trying to really lose weight, what would that secret be?
Well, number one, so it's tough to nail down to one, but I'll try to
go all right, like top three.
Yeah. So this is my number one thing. I think you have to enjoy what you're eating, but at the same time, you have to feel good on a daily basis. So what I always say to all my clients when they do come to me, and obviously, a lot of my athletes, they'll come and they'll ask me for nutritional advice. And I went plant-based 3 years ago. So I went fully plant-based, and I've never felt better in my life.
Wow, really?
And here's the thing. If you're any person and you want to change, the way you feel, the way you look, don't ask person A what they do and copy that. That's not how it works. That's not how nutrition works. That's not how science works. So if someone's putting you in a box of do this diet, you should probably get far away from them because that's garbage. I don't push plant-based on anyone, but I can tell you, for me, it was an experimentation, and that's my big thing. You want to find out what diet is good for you, experiment. Right? So what I did is I first cut out meat. Honestly, it didn't feel very different. I was still eating eggs. I was still having dairy. I didn't feel different. I cut out dairy and I cut out eggs. That's when I felt completely different. All right. So all of our DNAs are different. Our bodies respond different. You have to experiment to kind of see what is it that when I eat on a daily basis, or what time do I eat, or how much do I eat? Do I feel good? Because to me, we want to take care of our nutrition to feel good on a daily basis. We want to have high energy. We don't want to feel lethargic. So to me, if I had to say, and kind of a step-by-step process that I kind of go through, same thing. What is your goal? Identify what it is. Is it to improve your body composition? Is it to gain or lose weight? Or is it just to feel good on a daily basis? That's great. All three of those, I think, are awesome goals. Next, identify a plan. Like, what are you going to do? All right. Like, if you're trying to lose weight, subtract your calories, 250 to 500 calories from your base. If you want to gain, do the same thing the opposite way. If you want to feel good, journal. All right. I had breakfast. I had 3 eggs. How'd I feel an hour after, 2-3 hours after? Just like that. And then at the end of the day, you have to measure. You have to measure the results you're getting, right? Whether it's, and I don't like the people to get on a scale, because if you're working out and putting on muscle weighs more than fat. The scale's not going to be reflective of that. To me, it's, all right, well, let's find some type of measurement that we can do. You could do a circumference measurement, body fat caliper. There's so much now information out there that you can kind of take body fat calipers and do it on yourself. It's really simple, So to me, establish your goal, figure out a plan, experiment, and just make sure you can track progress. Because I think the worst thing we can do as people is not show ourselves the progress we're making, So if someone's just, I'm on a diet, but they're not really tracking anything, how are you going to know if you're going in the right direction or not? So I think it's important to kind of track progress, give yourself that mental, hey, I'm doing good here, because I think we all need to give ourselves a lot more credit than we do when we're trying to accomplish a goal.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because I was just going to ask you, how important is the mental health aspect even before even working on your body, would you say?
Everything. If you're not right mentally, then everything else is going to struggle, and our brain and our nervous system controls everything we do. So I think it's so common, and we talk a lot about it with my other two buddies, but like when you wake up and you come out of the bed and you're like, oh man, I got to go to work. That's it. Right? Like nothing physically happened. You can get 10 hours of sleep. You get up and you start your day like that, your day's over. Or you wake up and like, thank you. I'm blessed to live another day. I can't wait. I'm so excited for X, Y, and Z. That mentality shift affects your whole day. So I think the mental health aspect is, I'm glad it's getting to the forefront of how a lot of people start to think and the importance of it. But if you're not right mentally, everything else is going to struggle. And you just mentioned the girl who worked out. She might be on the treadmill for an hour, but she hates it. How well and how much progress is she going to make if she's not in the right, position to succeed? So mentality is everything. One of the things that I just do on every day, or try to at least, I wake up in the morning, I write 3 things I'm grateful for, 3 things I'm excited about. I recite a personal affirmation. I meditate for 5 minutes. That's it. And I'm ready to go.
It's crazy that you even brought that up, because my mentor, I've known him for years. He played overseas basketball. Now he's in the real estate, and he really, that's literally our last conversation that we had. He literally told me that same exact thing. He said, and he has a real estate podcast, and he brings on like the top investors in the world. And literally, they doing the exact same thing. Like, and it's crazy because I don't really think people really understand, like, when they wake up in the morning, those first thoughts in your head, that could really affect the rest of your day, like you said.
Everything. It's everything. And if you have any type of negative connotation to what you're about to do, it's going to go very poorly. Like, even if you're about to work out and you're like, oh man, I don't want to do this. And we've all done it, right? Where we kind of mentally kind of check out. That workout doesn't last very long, right? So I think it's so important. And one of the things, and we talked before you started, filming, but, about the nervous system and RPR I was telling you about. And one of the tests that they do is they have the person stand there. This is in the classes they teach. It's actually called, what's it called? I'm drawing a blank. But anyway, so one of the tests that they do is they have them stand there and they're like, all right, I want you to think of the worst thing in the world. Like, what is the worst thing in the world? Think of it right now, right? And they just give them a slight nudge and they fall. Not fall like dramatically, but they go back. And then they're like, all right, close your eyes. Think of the best thing in the world, the happiest moment in your life. And they try to move them and they can't. You can't move them. Like, just right there, that should show you the power of the brain and how important it is just to be in and we're not going to all have great days. I understand, but I think it's important that when you are having that bad day, just to reset, take a few deep breaths, reset everything going on, and then go back to your day. And it makes a big difference.
No, and like I said, I'm glad you're even giving this information, because this a lot of times, if you're really not tapped into like the fitness industry, or even have people in the right corner or in your circle that have the positive mindset, you're not going to hear this kind of information. So I even appreciate you even sharing that.
Absolutely. And if people don't support your mental well-being as well as your physical well-being, they shouldn't be in your circle. I'm sorry to say it. Like, you should surround yourselves with individuals that are like-minded with you, right? Like, you don't need to be surrounding yourself with people that are negative, that talk bad about others, that are, that they rather gossip than, prosper in their lives. And, that's why I've just surrounded myself that people that support me, and I support them and want them to succeed. Because when you don't have that circle, man, and that's a huge part of the mental aspect. When your circle is negative, and I think we've all been a part of it, right? Where people that are negative, cut those people out, man. You're better off having one amazing friend than 10 okay friends, right? Like, give me that one person every day of the week, because they're gonna support you every step of the way.
And you're not lying about that, because even myself, just seeing how I've grown throughout the years, like, I've seen where even when I was in college, I've had friends, and then as I continue to level up, in life and continue to make sacrifices for myself, I changed my mindset, and my whole energy switches. So I can't relate to those people that were doing the same thing they were a year ago.
And people will be scared of that. And people try to shoot you down. I just started another company for our capital. It's an agency. So it's a lot for, I do a lot of marketing for companies, website design, funnel design. And when I bring it up, they're like, what is that? Like, why are you doing that? But what's so strange is that when I say, 2019, I started my company for our fitness, they're like, oh, that's awesome. Because that's what they know me as, right? Yeah. They know me as the coach. But the second I do something they're foreign to them, they've never heard of, that's not going to work. Right. And tell me if it's going to work now. It's not going to work. That's great. I won't talk to you. I'm not going to tell you what my plans are, because all you're going to do is find everything wrong with the plan. So I'd rather not tell you about it.
Nah, you're definitely right, my man. And I just want to ask you as well, because I know you're training some of the top clients in the world. What is the top secret for somebody to tap into their full explosiveness, rather? Because I know for me, myself, like, I played, like I said, I played college basketball. And it was never a time like I was paying for programs outside of what my athletic program was giving me.
Right.
So to just try to find that extra edge just to get to that next level over my competition. And like I said, I've done Air Alert. I've done all the different programs, and it was
I think I did that one too.
And it was just, I'm just trying to figure out ways like, how can I dominate my opponent and get better? So what is one secret that no athlete really knows about that you could share with the audience?
Yeah, so to me, it's having a well-balanced program, and I think it's sequential, right? I think you have to just learn basic movement patterns first, and then I think the next part of that is get strong, right? Like getting strong builds the base for everything else. Getting strong keeps you healthy. Getting strong sets the foundation to train other things like power and speed, and getting strong is going to help in acceleration, sprinting. So after that, then you could start to work on different things that are going to help you become more athletic. Now, I'm sorry, if you are a coach or you're on a program where you want to get more athletic and you're not sprinting or jumping consistently, you're on the wrong program, right? I think too many people nowadays try to just go, I'm just going to get in the weight room and that's going to help me jump. Okay. For new people, absolutely. Because they're brand new. They're going to have all these adaptations that, their body's never experienced before. But if you're someone who's been training for a few years, and that's my secret, have a well-rounded program. You should do some type of sprint every day. You should do some type of jump every day. You should jump every plane of motion. You should jump horizontally, vertically, laterally. You should do all those. And you should work out, and you should have a specific goal for that workout, whether it's strength, power, or speed. Everything's got to be designed towards the goal of, it's going to make me a better athlete. But that's the one thing I will say that people neglect. And what I see in most programs, they just jump. That's not enough. I can't, and I did Air Alert. That's funny you say that, but I did Air Alert. When you just jump and jump and jump, there's going to be a burnout of the nervous system. It just doesn't work like that. What you got to do is you got to find the volume that's right for you. That could be 3 sets of 4. That could be 4 sets of 2. That's up to you to find out. And then on top of the jumping, sprint. That would be my secret, sprint. I don't see enough people sprint. Sprinting, we have the effect. When you sprint, you produce forces. Now at the Olympic level, a lot of us aren't going to achieve this, but 5 times your body weight of sprinting. So obviously maybe we're in that 2, 3, 4 range. There's not many exercises in the weight room that are going to mimic that. It's just not possible. So you sprint at full speed over a long distance. Now, for a lot of people, they might get in, top speed by 25 to 40 yards in that range, and they've done different studies. But everybody, if you want to become more athletic, sprint and sprint often. That would be the one thing that I see people neglect the most.
It's crazy that you said that, because I remember I remember we were chatting before, even when we came on here. It was like my senior year. I hurt my groin. And just going into that year, I was doing a lot of sprinting beforehand, like just trained during the season. But then I hurt my groin. And then like throughout the season, there was times I couldn't practice. So it was times like I was just going up and down the court, but I could barely walk, but I could dunk. But it didn't make any sense to me, because I could dunk. I could literally dunk off a 1-2 step, but I couldn't run up and down the floor. But you talking about that sprinting is like, I remember specifically during that junior year off season, that's all I really did, was just literally sprinting and just doing little box jumps in the gym and just doing those little. And I remember doing I remember I bought a program and just doing like motions from side to side. I forget what it was called, like the the sled things with the doing those, and those really helped me. So my senior year, people was like, yo, you can't play, but you could dunk. Like, it don't make sense. I was like, it's literally what I did in that off season.
Yeah, and I think it's a neglected part. I think people think, well, let me just jump, and that's where they get that, that nervous system burnout, or let me just get in the weight room. Okay, that's still not enough. There's got to be a sprinting component. So there's got to be sprinting where we do acceleration work, over shorter distances, and there's got to be top speed work, because the stimulus we get from sprinting at top speed is unmatched by anything else we do.
And I don't mean to keep you on long, because I know you got.
No, you're good.
But I just enjoy having this conversation with you, because I know, as a college athlete as well, there's a lot of myths going on. I don't know if you ever heard of it, especially with basketball players lifting during the season. That always threw off your shot. What is your thoughts on that?
That's nonsense. Here's the thing. And okay, I'll say this. Nonsense for what I do. I don't know what other people do. We do a lot of low volume in season. So, what we'll do is we'll build up our base prior to going into the year, and then we'll start to transition to whatever the needs are the athlete are. So that might be some kids might show me, and we do a sprint test and a jump test, and I use that as an assessment. And we're rechecking that assessment every 2 to 4 weeks. So I'm constantly changing the plan throughout the year because your body changes in season, right? Like things are going to happen. Now, what people think is, I get in season, let me shut it down. That's the last thing you want to do. You have to continue to train, especially basketball. The good thing about basketball, it's a long season, right? Like, I don't know, maybe 16, 17 weeks. It's in that range. Think about that, 16, 17 weeks of consistent training. I know that we usually have about 5 or 6 weeks of a preseason. I'm talking about, that 20-week range of training consistently. Why would you want to flush that down the drain? Why would you just want to stop? And when you stop lifting, and again, I don't think the lifting should be, hey, we need to max out every day. The lifting should be, hey, let's make sure we're keeping our strength, which is you're going to have to train above 85% of your max. And then once we hit that strength, stimulus, let's focus on what we need. Do we need power? Do we need to lower the percent down? Do we need to even work on our peaking and our speed? Then we got to even lower the percentage less. But I will say this, one of the things that we do at Adelphi, we will jump all throughout the year and we will sprint. We will time sprints. And what we saw last year is that, last year we were able to play our season, is that we continue to get faster from the beginning of the season to the end of the season. Wow. And I don't think a lot of teams that we played against can actually say that they had the same experience, because I don't think, and I don't know, I can't say for sure, but we worked out at a high intensity. We didn't do a lot. 2 to 3 times a week, we were still working out, but we were making sure we were efficiently working out, where we were still improving the qualities that are going to affect the sport in a positive way.
And it's crazy because you say that, and I think about when I played throughout near the end of the season, is that I know when I played, it was like that burnout. Like we were just on our last leg, just trying to get through it. And for me, one of my struggles was I'll go into the season weighing 180, 175, and when season's hitting, I'm middle of the season, I'm back to like 160, 165. Right. So what is something you would suggest to help even student athletes keep on that weight during the season, or is that a good thing that they're losing it and it's just they just have to keep that strength? Like, what would you suggest? Yeah,
so here's the thing, you got to constantly measure things, right? So that's what measure things is very broad, but like you have to find a metric that's going to correlate to whatever your sport is. To me, sprinting and jumping height, sprinting speed, those are 2 things that are going to correlate to every sport. Now, let's say you were losing weight like that, but let's say your vert was getting better. That's awesome. But now let's say you were losing weight and your vert was going down. That probably means that you're losing a lot of power. So in that situation, and there's this free app, it's called Chronometer. I can send it to you for you to share. But it does track calories. And what I think is important is you need to figure out before the season starts, well, what do I need to eat on a daily basis to maintain my weight? That might be 3,000 calories, it might be 2,500, whatever it is. And you got to do your best every day to kind of be in that range, because as the season goes on, you're going to have a lot of muscle tearing, breakdown, whatever the case is. You got to constantly replenish yourself each and every day. So I think it's important that you're still eating either more to maintain, but as long as our speed and power is improving, because I hate, one of the worst things that bothers me when we're just maintaining. Why would you do that? Why are you training to maintain? You can't do that. That makes no sense. If you're not training to improve or the intent to improve, you're getting worse. I'm sorry. There's no program that's out there like, we're just going to be even. Like that doesn't exist. Right? So I think it's important. And there's a lot of different ways you can do that. Inexpensive ways where you can buy lasers to measure your sprint speed. If your coach doesn't provide that, or if you get some, there's small lasers you can buy to measure your vert. Anything where you're constantly reassessing where you're at physically, I think is important. But one of the things that I notice that athletes really struggle with is sleep. So if you're not sleeping 7+ hours a day and you're staying up to 3 o'clock playing video games, talking to whoever, you're going to struggle. I don't care who you are. You can be the best athlete in the world and you sleep for 3 hours a day, you're going to struggle. So sleep is an underrated thing that a lot of people don't think about.
And I was going to ask you that, the sleep aspect, and how important is the water aspect? Because I know everything. I've always struggled with water. Like I'd rather just go to the cab, drink some juice, and just drink juice all throughout the day. And then I never forget when it comes to the games, I'll start cramping.
Yeah.
So how would you feel what would you say, how important is the water aspect as well?
Just as important. And it's important to get a lot of the electrolytes that we do lose. And there are certain things you got to, figure out for yourself. Like, are you a salty or a sweater? Because if you are, listen, it's gross, but people kind of feel it. You get that sweat drip. You could just kind of like, hey, it's a little salty. It means you're losing a lot, and you got to replenish that. You got to replenish that with fruits, veggies, soups, stuff like that. Sports drinks, even though I wouldn't go crazy with that just because there's a lot of sugar and fake stuff in there. But the hydration aspect, you got to figure. And when you lose weight, it's usually water weight, right? Like after practice, if you're down 3-4 pounds, you got to replenish that. You got to make sure that you're not losing that water weight, because eventually that hydration is a big part of our entire system. And without that hydration, the recovery aspect and the injury aspect, you're going to struggle with that a little bit.
Nah, definitely. I know we spoke briefly before we got on here too about the injury prevention. So could you talk about a little bit about that? Because I know that was something I struggled with personally, just trying to stay healthy throughout the season. And are there any ways that an athlete could either do by themselves, stay healthy, or are there any tips that you would give them?
Yeah, and we mentioned it earlier, but the reflexive performance reset, that's one of the biggest things that I've ever come across. And I know a lot of people love stretching and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, something like RPR, is focusing on the nervous system. Our nervous system controls everything we do. So simple manipulations that we can do using RPR, and you can Google YouTube videos. There's some stuff on the internet, but just simple drills that you can do just before practice, after practice, before you go to bed, are so crucial to actually keeping someone healthy. Because what resetting the nervous system does is make sure everything's firing the correct way. So when I just stretch my hamstring, that's not enough. If I stretch my quad, that's not doing anything. It's just not. We need our nervous system to fire the right way. The nervous system is the main driver of everything we do. So for that, I would tell people to seriously look up into that, or if they have questions, just reach out to me. I'd love to help. And then the other thing, continue to work out. And that's the one I see people just stop working out altogether. And like you said, that burnout. You're not strong anymore. You're not powerful. You're not fast. Working out's going to prevent those injuries, doing some type of lifting and sprinting. Sprinting is one of the best ways that we can prevent any type of hamstring injury. So you should be sprinting all year, and you should be lifting all year. And, the nutrition aspect, I'm saying the same thing, but like all those matter into keeping you healthy.
No, definitely. And like I said, you even talking about that just by the hamstring part. You're talking to a person that I tore my hamstring my sophomore year of college. I pulled it again in junior year. So it was like, that's something I always struggle with. And if I had those answers to it, because no really athletic trainer was really telling me to go out and sprint. There was no really trying to tell me or to what to do to help prevent those things. It would always be, I would always go see them after I've done it. So
that's it, right? And that's what people try. They do after they're trying to fix it. The damage is done already. Right. So like before you get injured, if you're not injured now, you have a huge advantage over everyone else. Get out there and just start doing these movements, because our goal is to make our body resilient to these injuries and not wait until after it happens to be like, oh, what can I do now?
And like I said, that was one of my biggest struggles, and I'm glad you even given this information, because being an athlete and still even working out now, it's like in the back of my head, if I'm doing a certain movement, I'm always thinking, no, I don't want to do this. I don't want to hurt my hamstring. So just hearing these little things, it's something I will implement to my lifestyle as well.
Yeah, the hamstrings, especially sprinting, is going to be a big part of that. Like I said, the RPR that I mentioned to you, but also, some heavier posterior chain work, like RDLs and stuff like that. Those are going to be big contributors in keeping you healthy.
No, definitely. And one more question I want to ask you is, how do you personally keep your clients that you have motivated? Because I know, like I said, like we spoke earlier, throughout the weeks, there may be times you don't want to get up and work out. So is this something that you do even with your personal clients that are not at the university, that you help them keep motivated?
Yeah, track progress. Let them know what, which way they're trending in, even if you're just sharing, hey, if you're sprinting and your time in sprints, hey, 4 weeks ago, this was your time, and now look at where you're at. People love to hear about progress. They want to know that they're doing something good, right? And that they're progressing in the right way. Hey, you squatted 225 last week. Now you 4 weeks later or whatever. 4 weeks later, now you're squatting 235. Like, that's amazing. So I think a lot of clients just are yearning for feedback. And if you're just kind of taking them through the motions every day and you're not really updating them like, hey, you're doing a great job this week. This is what I saw. To me, that's when people lose motivation and they lose that dedication, because they don't know, right? Like, we see ourselves in the mirror every day. if you work out for 4 weeks, you're probably not going to notice a difference. But if your trainer comes to you and say, hey, hey, we did body comp measures and you lost 2% body fat, or hey, you're jumping X amount higher. And that's what I do. I time sprints with a lot of my athletes, and then I post their scores so they can see how they're progressing. But if I have a regular client, I'll say, hey, and I have a tracking device on the barbell. Hey, look at your speed. It's much faster than it was 4 weeks ago. So I think it's important to show progress for your clients.
But one thing about you, Keith, is what I like is you actually care about your clients, because think about it. I'm sure you know a lot of fitness trainers. Not every fitness trainer is doing this because they're in it just for the money, or they're doing it just for another purpose. You actually care about the people that you're seeing. So you doing this, I feel like it gives an extra motivation within itself to the client.
Yeah, and I think that's an important thing, man. If you don't like people, you shouldn't be in this field. I just like every day, when I do have clients and I'm just talking to them, and I'm not talking to them about training. I'm talking to them about life. Oh, what's going on with your parents? How's your spouse doing? Oh, what's new with your business and stuff like that. So it's important. You want to be a good trainer, learn to connect with people more than just what you're doing. Because I think that's where trainers go wrong, right? I think they just talk about, oh, this is the workout, this is what we're doing. I'm always just talking to people. I'll explain, hey, this is the workout. This is what we're doing. I'm going to make corrections along the way. And then in the middle, I'll be like, oh, how's your class going, by the way? You know what I mean? Like, like, for example, one of my players, they're a nurse. I'm like, oh, how's nursing going? Like, how is it in the hospital? Stuff like that. So it's important. You want to be a successful trainer, show people that you care. That goes a far way.
Now you being a strength and conditioning coach, having your own business as well, how do you personally balance out everything that's going on and still have time for your personal life?
So, it's funny. We just talked about this on our podcast. I hate the word balance because I feel like when I'm doing something, I'm doing it to 100%. And I think people take it as, oh, I live a life of balance. So they don't go 100% all in on anything. So I make sure that, well, number one, and this is a big thing I see wrong with our field. Your first responsibility, if you have a family, is to your family. Your job is a job, right? And for me, it's become a career and a passion. My family, and I got 3 kids and a wife, and I got parents, and I got brothers. Those are responsibilities one. That's it. I don't care. They come first before anything else. That's where people go wrong. They put their job first. They're there 16, 18, whatever hours a day, and they neglect their family. I'll never do that to my children ever in my entire life. I'll never do that to my wife. That's not fair. So when it comes to balance, and this is my advice for everyone, if you're at your job, be 100% all in at your job. When you're at home and you're with your wife, you're 100% all in on your wife. When you're with your kids, you're 100% of being the best dad possible. So I think when it comes to balance, your family should always be first. But if you have a passion for it, you're never just going to toss your career to the side. But you got to learn that as we get older in life, man, family is all you have. Your job will fire you and find someone else for you the next day. Right? But your family is there forever. So I think it's important for people to understand that. Don't make your job everything. It shouldn't be everything. It should be something you love and you look forward to doing. But at the end of the day, you should never neglect your family. You should be 100% all in on your family.
And I'm glad you even gave that advice, because I'm a big family man myself. And like I said, I work crazy hours. I come home, do a podcast. But even the little time I get, I try to spend it with my parents, try to spend it with my brother and my sisters, because at the end of the day, you never know. Even in our instances, life can be gone tomorrow. So I just always worry about trying to spend as much time with them as I can while they're here and give them the best of me, best version of me. You know what I mean?
And maximize your time with everyone, right? Maximize your time with your clients, with your athletes, maximize the time with your family. And that's why I hate the people that like, oh, life of balance. They come home and they're like, oh man, I got to work tomorrow. Or they're like, I can't wait for the weekend. Like, that's a horrible way to live. If you're not excited about what you're doing, you have to reassess what's going on in life. Life goes by like that. Why are we going to waste it spending time doing things we don't love or not with people that we care about? So make sure we're on the same page. Family becomes before family. If you have faith, that comes before everything else.
Definitely. And I appreciate you coming on the show. Like I said, chopping it up with me on a Friday night. You gave some great advice. And before I let you go, is there any special routines that you go through on a daily basis? And what is a typical day like for you?
Yeah, so right now, I wake up, like today I woke up around 5:30, I got up, like I said, I drive into work first. I have my first group around 6:45. I get into work. I write down those things we talked about earlier. I write in my notebook. I write, what do I want to accomplish today? My top 3 things. When am I going to work out? I map out everything. And then, when the day's over, I drive home, and then I'm 100% a dad and a husband, and then when they go to sleep, I do great things like this, and then I'll work on my other business. So, it's busy, but it's structured and all in. And one of the things that I think is important, I'm not 100% every day, right? And I think that's a thing that people think like, oh, well, how can you give 100% every day? Like, it's impossible. We're not going to have a full tank every day. But if you have a quarter of a tank for the day, you better maximize that quarter of a tank. So my thing would be structure your day, focus on the task at hand. And at the end of the day, and this is the last thing that I do, I celebrate what I did. What did I accomplish today? What are the 3 things I accomplished? It might not be everything on my list, but reflect and say, man, I did a great job today. Or you know what? There's a few things I can improve on tomorrow, but I still did some great things today. That gives you such a positive mindset going to bed and then restarting that day, in a short period of time.
Definitely. And the last thing I want to ask you before I let you go, because I know you got kids to attend to, but like I said, I appreciate you just coming on the show and talking with me. It's something I ask all of my guests is, what's something that you're most grateful for?
Family. I seriously, the biggest blessing that I ever had was getting married and having my kids. And, I'm a full-time husband and father before I'm anything else. Like, I do this for fun. Like, talking to you, this is great. I love it. I love talking about this. I'll talk to anyone for hours about this. But the biggest blessing and my family, my parents, my brother, my support system. I feel so blessed to have so many great people in my life. But the fact that, God has blessed me with a family and beautiful and healthy kids. That's the best thing I've ever been given in my life.
No, definitely. And for people that have any questions for you, would you mind just saying your company one more time? Just giving them your contact information?
Yeah, so you can. I got a couple accounts, but you can reach me on Twitter and Instagram, Big K28, and then I have my Instagram account for my training company, Ferrara.fitness or Ferrara Fitness, however it is. But if people ever have any questions, they can just reach out to me there. They can just shoot me a message, and I'll be sure to respond and help out in any way I can.
And like I said, Keith, I appreciate you coming on the show talking with me because, like I said, a lot of people don't have access to this type of information. And even when I reached out to you, I was grateful for you even reaching out and saying you'll be coming on the show because I was watching all your videos. And like I said, I filter everybody I bring on the show. And if they're not authentic and real, I don't even bother. But you're somebody I really want to bring on. And you're very informative. You gave a lot of great advice tonight. So I appreciate you coming on.
No, thank you. I know you probably come across a lot of people, so I appreciate and I feel honored that you asked me to be a part of this. So I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
No problem, no problems. And we'll definitely link up soon, my man.
Yeah, definitely reach out. I'll shoot you a text now so then we can just we can exchange numbers. I know you sent me my number, so I sent your number. So I'll be sure to text you, and anything you need, let me know.
Definitely, I appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Q's Health and Wellness Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe or to leave us a review on iTunes or the listening platform of your choice. Also, please check us out at QuinnMitchellII.com, as well as find us on Instagram for more useful content and resources.